welcome back. This is your geomancy reading that will take place during the peak of the Lionsgate portal. And if you haven't already seen it, I have done a special video which is an I Ching message for the it's designed to cover the period for the Lionsgate portal, which is around about July the 26th until around about the 12th of August. Now this is going to be a little bit of a tricky time, so I do advise you to listen to what the I Ching has to say, because I think they are offering some really good advice for how to kind of make decisions and to kind of work through what could be potentially a little bit of a sort of an anxious time. I think that's probably the best way to say it. It's quite challenging from an astrological perspective. But anyway, we'll get into that in your reading and see what comes out. So I've had a tiny piece of a quartz shard sitting on the cards just to sort of clear the energy. So let's see what wants to come through. Somebody recently asked me why I don't take cards that kind of fly out of the deck, and the reason is that because there's only 16 geomantic figures, I tend not to, because there's a very high likelihood of repetition anyway. So I kind of think, you know, if it's meant to come out, it's going to come out one way or another. Oh, and also for those of you who have bought my Geomancy ebook, thank you very much for your support. I have had a few inquiries about cards. Where do I get my cards from? So just to reiterate, I've developed this particular oracle and I've designed the cards myself. It's my way of sort of working with geomancy, but you don't need the casting cloth or the cards. You can just do it with a piece of paper and dice or coins, for example, you know, much like the I Ching. However, I am working on some cards because I have had some requests for people who said they'd like to buy the book with some cards. So I'm actually busy designing some cards now, and I sort of think, you know, it's good. It might be a good idea to redesign these cards as well, because they're not so clear on video. You can't really see the symbolism that clearly. So look out for those in the near future. And also just to say thank you for your support, your likes, shares and comments. I've noticed quite a spike in subscribers and viewership in the last couple of weeks. So thank you to all of those people who are returning, and welcome if you're new. I hope you'll enjoy and become a regular member of the Astrology Sphere family. Okay, so let's cut those cards. Okay, so Aquarius, it looks as though going into this particular full moon, you're going to be quite driven by that Mars in Aries energy, and it's quite interesting because Mars at this particular full moon is going to be making a conjunction to Black Moon Lilith in your 3rd house. So it will also be quite strong because it will be making a square to Jupiter, which I think will be sitting in your 12th house, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So so the Mars aspects, I think, are going to be constellating for you during this particular waning moon phase, which you know is the 2 weeks that follow from the full moon to the following new moon. So that's something to bear in mind. It does look as though you're keen on new beginnings. That's another way that we can read this, and that you may be wanting to resolve conflict. So those are a couple of themes that might you know, sort of turn up for you over the next couple of weeks. But let's find out more. Okay, interesting. So it looks as though, you know, we've got Fortuna Major in your 4th house. This is the Sun in Leo, and of course at the moment we're actually in Leo season. So you know, very apt to have this particular geomantic figure come out. So Mars, I mean, Sun in Leo here, Fortuna Major, is all about success and having more confidence, sort of charisma, like you know, putting on your leonine crown and really kind of coming into your power and your sovereignty, which is obviously a big theme at the moment, given that, you know, the Lionsgate portal, which is really about combining all that kind of, that solar energies of the sort of the so-called physical and the spiritual sun, Sirius, and the you know, the sun, that, which are both actually suns. I mean, any star actually is a sun. So it feels to me as though you're gaining in confidence within your immediate family, and within your home. Maybe you're wanting to kind of open up your home, you're wanting to let in more light, for example, more natural light. That's one way this could work. It could also be that you are wanting to start some kind of home business. You know, perhaps you know, your circumstances have changed as a result of COVID-19, and you're keen to kind of you sort of forge a new path for yourself, perhaps with a, you know, a home business. That's one way that this energy could work. It could also be that you're getting more recognition and acknowledgement from family members. So that's really good to see. Okay, but when it comes to other people, you know, this is significant others. So this can be, you know, business partnerships, or significant others like spouses, or important one-to-one relationships. It does look as though on some level you're feeling a little bit disappointed or let down, or possibly there's been separation. So it could just be that you're feeling a little bit lonely, in the sense that, you know, with travel restrictions in place and social distancing, it's not really, you know, it continues to be difficult to socialize. I mean, I know in the UK that things have opened up a lot, but there's still a lot of anxiety and kind of ambivalence, you know, kind of coming in terms of advice that we're being given. So you know, this doesn't really surprise me. Now, we'll come back to this, but it's these two houses where the full moon is going to fall. So we're going to have the moon here, and we're going to have the sun here. So those are going to be important geomantic figures, but I think we need to sort of wait until we've got all the other figures in position before I kind of comment any further. Yeah, so definitely. So Caput Draconis in your 10th house, to me, does echo this idea that you are keen to kind of go off in a new direction, and that it may, in terms of your career in particular, and that this may involve you know, some kind of home industry, some business that you potentially run from home, or that has to do with real estate, or something to do with families, one of those two things. So that's definitely worth bearing in mind. But let's find out more. I'm just going to pause while I do those conversions, and I'll be back with you shortly. Hi Aquarius, welcome back. So let's get into your reading in a bit more detail. I think the best place to start is probably the full moon itself. So as I said, we'll have, at the full moon, we'll have the sun in your 7th house, and we'll have the moon in your 1st house. So this is really that axis, the ascendant axis you have in astrology, which is really about self versus others. And the balance here is between kind of you sort of make sure that you get your needs fulfilled, particularly emotional needs, because this, you know, we do have the moon here in your 1st house in Aquarius, and then kind of meeting the needs of others. So because the sun is here, this, you know, the sun can represent sort of either a male significant other, or it can sometimes represent you know, ego concerns, but also kind of rational head versus heart kind of stuff. And I think, generally speaking, because of the transits that are going to be made between Mercury and Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, and the Mars aspects that will be happening between sort of like the beginning to kind of mid-August, that's going to be a big theme. This sort of head versus heart, how to make decisions, you know, during challenging times, or when your ability to make decisions is somehow affected, either by you know, emotions, by unsettling external events, by other people and their reactions. This is going to be a massive theme. So I kind of think that for you, you know, this particular full moon is all about your relationships with other people, and how you kind of assert your emotional needs, you know, puer, with others, without feeling as though you're going to lose them because there's a sort of a difference of opinion. So it could be that in some way you have been undergoing some kind of metamorphosis, particularly since that January new moon in Aquarius that we had. You know, maybe you've kind of you've thought really hard about things and you've realized that you need to be kind of asserting yourself more when it comes to personal relationships, asserting your needs more, your emotional needs. Perhaps you've been one of those, you know, those empaths that has, to a larger extent, kind of put your needs second, and so you're flipping the script, as it were. And of course, you know, for other people that might be a bit of a shock to the system. So I do feel as though there is some kind of, you know, potential separation, breakup here. Also possibly, as I say, just kind of, perhaps perhaps you're shedding certain people in your life in order to find your soul tribe. Because look, we've got Puer again in your 11th house, which is the house of friendships and groups and social networking. So it's definitely possible that you are undergoing some kind of internal metamorphosis that means that you are resonating at a different frequency and therefore are kind of going to be resonating with different people. So that is certainly a possible theme for you during the 2 weeks that follow this particular full moon. But on the positive side, you know, it's always painful to let go of certain people, but it does look as though it's because your values are shifting. And you know, it's interesting, Neptune is still sort of sitting in this sector of your chart, which is all about value, how you value yourself, so self-worth, but also earned income. So I do think that in this instance, because we've got this echo here of a Messiah in your 12th, your 2nd and your 7th houses, that this is more to do with a shift in values for you. And notice that it's also the outcome of your reading. So because you're shifting values, because you perhaps are moving out of perhaps beliefs or subconscious patterns where you didn't value yourself and therefore you know, were very self-sacrificing potentially in relationships, or perhaps where you kept getting involved with people that were emotionally unavailable. That's another way a Messiah can work. You know, it could be now that that certain people are leaving your life, but the good news is that, you know, other people are coming in. But as I say, Puer here isn't always necessarily about conflict, although it can be. So it could be that there's, you know, conflict with certain people, but those people, there's conflict because there's a conflict in terms of values. But this is also, Puer is also about new beginnings. And so I do feel strongly that, you know, if people do leave your life, it's because you're making space and room for new people to come in. Now, interesting that you've also got Puer here in your 6th house. So we can't rule out the possibility that this is a business partnership, because we are talking here about money, earned income, about everyday work environment, and then about significant others. And of course, this can also be business partnerships. So it's also possible that at this full moon, you may get some news to do with work, possibly a new job. You know, maybe there's been a kind of, maybe you've had to, for example, drop the number of days that you work or the number of hours that you work with your current employer, and that's not bringing in enough money, and so you're looking at something else, starting something new work-wise that will bring in some more money. And this could be why we've got this home enterprise, this Fortuna major happening here in your 4th house, as well as a new start in your 10th house of career. It's interesting too that Fortuna major is echoed in your 9th house, and this is the house of teaching. It's the house of foreign relations, as publishing, as well as kind of legal stuff. So you know, it could be that you're expanding, or that you're getting recognition in those areas, or that you're thinking of expanding into those areas. If so, then I do think it'll be very successful. So if, for example, you started sort of doing teaching from home, you know, that would kind of work, as well as mentoring. That's another way that, you know, this energy can kind of work, where you become somebody's sort of coach or advisor. Those are certainly possibilities, you know, to consider. But let's have a look for a second at some of the other astrology that's going on during this particular period. So as I said, we've also got Mercury making several transits to all those planets that we've got in Capricorn. So Mercury is sitting in your 6th house, and from here in Cancer it is making oppositions to all those planets, Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto, in your 12th house. So I think that this is going to be a period where you're going to have to balance the way that you make decisions, or how you communicate with other people, which is Mercury, or how you process data. And given that Capricorn here is sitting in your 12th house, which is the house of institutions, so it can be things like hospitals and libraries, but equally it is also about your psyche. So it's about subconscious beliefs, patterns, the way that you process information. So fight or flight instincts here. So I think that it's possible that there's a need for rebalancing the way that you make decisions or communicate, and this could come through a change of habit. So it could be that as a result of, for example, meditating, doing more exercise, deciding to incorporate some new practice or ritual into your everyday life, that you are able to create more balance and kind of shift things, when it comes to that restrictive energy in your 12th house. And that could be why we have Corsair here, which is usually about restriction. Saturn, it's the card, I don't know if you can see, but it's ruled by Saturn in Capricorn. So this is pointing to where Capricorn is in your chart, which is your 12th house. Corsair is also here in your 5th, and the 5th house is about joy, what brings us joy or passion. So it can be about creativity, it can be about children, it can equally be about rest and relaxation, so holidays, that kind of thing. And it could be that psychologically you're taking a little bit of strain, perhaps because of all the conflicting advice again about holidays, whether you can travel or not. It is quite an anxiety provoking thing when you're not really sure where you stand. So it's possible that due to ongoing restrictions or changes in restrictions with regards to travel, that this may be contributing to, to feeling trapped or just feeling a little bit isolated from others. And that's maybe why we've got, a Missio here, a couple of times. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Then the other important aspect that we need to consider is that both the Sun and the Moon at the full moon will be making some very positive trines to, a sextile from the Moon and a trine from the Sun to Chiron, which is sitting in your 3rd house. So this is Chiron in Aries, and Chiron is currently retrograde in Aries. So this may have something to do with the way that you view past wounds, and this is the 3rd house of communication, but also of perspective. So it's also about our outlook. It's not just how we express ourselves, but also the way that we see things. So given that Cauda Draconis is here, it does seem to be saying that you do need to let go of a certain perspective or position, which will then allow you to heal on some level. So that's really, really good news. And this may also be what shifts, significant others when it comes to relationships with significant others. It could simply be about letting go of a particular viewpoint, a particular habit, a particular way of communicating. And this could be about communicating your personal needs, your emotional needs, and that will bring about enormous healing. So that's really good news. I think the other, I'm trying to think of any of the other astrology that I might have forgotten. Oh yes, so Mars will also be making a square soon after this full moon. Mars will be making a square to Jupiter. So Jupiter's sitting here in your 12th house, and Mars is currently in Aries, so it's also sitting in this 3rd house. So I think this is emphasizing the connection between mind and an outlook. So this is kind of I would say the subconscious versus the conscious mind. So again, I think emphasizing this idea of a need to change habits and rituals in order to shift perspectives, and this could be enormously helpful for getting yourself out of a bit of a funk. That's what I kind of feel, is that you've been a little bit down on yourself, and it's reflected in your relationships with others, but also perhaps in terms of earned income. And this is a time to kind of shift out of that energy, I think. So it's good that we've got Fortuna Major as one of your outcome cards. I think it's really saying, you know, if you're feeling isolated, it's time to let go of certain things. These are both, in a way, geomantic figures about letting go. And so I think, you know, it'll be really important to sort of spend the 2 weeks of the full moon doing that. This is waning moon energy, so it is perfect for letting go of things which no longer serve us. So, you know, again, you know, the fact that we've got counter draconis here, for me, this is the card of either lunar eclipses or a full moon. So this for me is an indication of what you need to heal and release and transmute, you know, during this particular 2-week cycle. So I think those are kind of the major themes, you know, for the upcoming 2 weeks. Do check out my Instagram feed and Facebook if you're interested in, you know, this is sort of the daily cosmic weather of what the planets are doing from day to day. But I think this you know, should give you a good overview of some of those themes that are likely to be active for the 2-week period during the moon, the sort of the lunar cycle. And don't forget, you know, not everything is negative in this reading. We do have Fortuna Major here twice, so these are your areas where you could really shine, and you could find, you know, enormous success is, you know, with family members, for example, and also or people you share a home with. So if you, for example, are part of a, you know, a commune, or you've got somebody that rents a room from you, as well as ninth house. So this is, you know, people of different cultures, you know, people who are of foreign cultures, who live at a distance from you, or who are in the position of either being legal advisors, you know, publishers, agents, teachers, life coaches, that kind of thing. So it can work, you know, in both ways. It could be that you know, you're giving people advice, but equally maybe you're getting advice from other people. So yes, I hope that's been helpful, Aquarius. Do let me know down below in the comments if this has resonated. And as I say, you know, do check me out on my other social media platforms if you're enjoying these readings. But I'm wishing you all the best for the upcoming full moon. You know, this is your sign after all, so this is a big full moon for you. And I'll catch you again in a couple of weeks for the next new moon.